Hello. Am I audible? Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you have got the notice, not got na still regarding reopening of offline lectures. From tomorrow, the lectures will be in offline mode as we have been communicated by principal. Okay, so you may be getting the notice by the evening maybe. So we will start with the new approach today, post-colonialism, and then I will be over with the all literary approaches or critical approaches. Okay, and then you can decide which approach you want to choose to appreciate your text for your internals. What is post-colonialism? I have already discussed with you this thing. What is post-colonialism? Anybody would like to tell? We have already done post-colonialism and multiculturalism under paper 8, correct? So anybody would like to tell me what is post-colonialism? So we will be doing post-colonial theory. As we already know that post-colonialism is the period after colonialism. India has been colonized by Britishers, okay, and they have ruled over us more than 200 years. We all know that. And so post-colonialism and post-colonial theory came into existence. Now, post-colonial theory is a body of thought primarily concerned with accounting for the political, aesthetic, economic, historical, and social impact of European colonial rule around the world in the 18th through the 20th century. Post-colonial theory takes many different shapes and interventions, but all share a fundamental claim that the world we inhabit is impossible to understand except in relationship to the history of imperialism and colonial rule. This means that it is impossible to conceive of European philosophy, European literature, or European history. Now, he says post-colonial theory is a body of thought primarily concerned with accounting for political, aesthetic, economic, historical, and social impact of European colonial rule around the world in the 18th to through the 20th century. So I told you that India has been ruled over more than 200 words, 200 years, sorry. Okay, and we all know that. So post-colonial theory studies the impact of post-colonialism, you can say in short. Okay. Okay. Now, when we say post-colonialism, what is post-colonialism that we need to understand? So, what is post-colonialism? Post-colonialism means the period after a country is colonized by another country. Clear? So, you know, India has been colonized by Britishers. Clear? Is it clear? So, period after a country is colonized by another country. So, India has been colonized by Britain. And so, you can understand the impact of colonialism. Okay, the social, economic, political, on India as well as Britain. Okay. It's not that only the country which is colonized get impacted, but the country which colonizes another country also gets impacted. Okay. Even you can see historical impact. Okay. Now, when we say, now you know that because Britain has colonized India, so our life has been impacted in multiple ways. Our thinking has been westernized, correct? So, impact of colonization was the westernization. So, you know, English education is also impact of English style of living and thinking. Clear? Because of English education, our style of living and thinking became English. Is it clear? Now you see when India was colonized, after that people started thinking that English education is the best education. So you see many of Indians, not all Indians naturally, many of the Indians have not only sent their children to English medium schools for studies, but they are sending their children abroad even for studies. Correct? And then our life has been westernized. Nowadays we don't sit on the ground and eat food in many houses. We sit on the dining table. Okay, so our style of living has become westernized. Then we like to wear Western outfits more than we like to wear Indian outfits. So all these has changed our thinking, our style of living. Okay. Now, because of colonization, so many good things also happened in the sense, you know, earlier sati pratha was there, then even child marriages were more prevalent, and then widows used to live very difficult life, but widow remarriage, sati pratha, banning of sati pratha, banning of child marriage, all these things also happened due to English education, westernization, English style of living or thinking, you can say. So it's not that colonialism has only wrongly impacted the society. It has impacted the society in good ways as well. Now, English is an international language. So, if you know English, then naturally it helps you to understand the culture around. So, it's not that English education is bad, but too much of English living and thinking, too much of English style of living and thinking will impact, in the sense we will forget our own culture, we will forget our own education system, the Gurukul system, we will forget our own living, thinking, and we will be converted ones. Okay, so colonization has impacted, no doubt, every one of us. Okay, so if we say how economic factors, political factors, historical factors, social factors contributed to colonialism, or how after India being colonized, these things got impacted. I mean, society got impacted, the economic condition of India got impacted, political condition, historical condition. Now, when you read history of Indian struggle for freedom, you come to know how Indians suffered during colonization. Okay, so that was historical impact. Political impact, you can see how India was looked upon by not only Britishers or Britain, but by other countries in the world. Okay, now economic factor, economic condition, India was an agriculture country since beginning, correct? Colonialism did have an impact on Indian economy. Okay, Britishers came to India for business only, okay, for trade only, and they established East India Company. Okay, so colonialism did impacted Indian trade, Indian economy. Correct? They established. So India's trade got impacted due to British rule brought with them their own business culture. Is it clear? So let us try to understand. Anybody is there in the class who wants to understand about the project, how to do the project? Because few students sent me message that we are not able to understand what to do in the project. Now, if anybody wants to know, then can tell me. So when we are talking about post-colonial theory, is the screen visible? Post-colonial theory is a body of thought primarily concerned with accounting for the political, aesthetic, economic, and historical and social impact of European colonial rule around the world in the 18th through the 20th century. Post-colonial theory takes many different shapes and interventions, but all share a fundamental claim that the world we inhabit is impossible to understand except in relationship to the history of imperialism and colonial rule. What it means, the world we inhabit is impossible to understand except in relationship to the history of imperialism and colonial rule. The world we inhabit is impossible to understand. Really, it's really difficult to understand the world, except in relationship to the history of imperialism and colonial rule. This means that it is impossible to conceive of European philosophy, European literature, or European history as existing in the absence of Europe's colonial encounters and operation around the world. Okay, this means that it is impossible to conceive of European philosophy, European literature, or European history as existing in the absence of Europe's colonial encounters and operations around the world. Now, it is very difficult to understand European philosophy, European literature, or European history. Okay, if colonization wouldn't have happened, it would have been very difficult. It also suggests that colonized world stands at the forgotten center of global modernity. The prefix post of post-colonial theory has been rigorously debated, but it has never implied that colonialism has ended. Indeed, much of post-colonial theory is concerned with the lingering forms of colonial authority after the formal end of empire. Other forms of post-colonial theory are openly endeavoring to imagine a world after colonialism, but one which has yet to come into existence. Okay, now see the post colonial theory. When we use the word post colonial theory, it says the prefix post is also a matter of debate. Okay, because post colonial, when we say post colonialism, it doesn't mean that colonialism has ended. Okay, post colonialism starts with colonialism only. Indeed, much of post colonial theory is concerned with the lingering forms of colonial authority after the formal end of empire. Now, though when post colonial theory came into existence after the formal end of post colonial empire, but post colonial theory actually started emerging with colonialism. Other forms of post colonial theory are openly endeavoring to imagine a world after colonialism, but one which has yet to come into existence. Now, if we try to understand post colonial theory, as I told you, that you can understand it easily because India has been colonized by Britishers, and so they brought with them their own culture, business culture, okay, and culture in other sense as well. So the various critics associated with post colonialism are Homi Bhabha. Okay, Edward said, and Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. Okay, Chakravarti, CHA Spivak. Is it clear? So you need to remember these three critics mainly when you are talking about post-colonial theory. Okay. I hope you may have noted down all these things, whatever I have written on the board, whiteboard, typed on the whiteboard. Now he says that The post-colonial theory emerged in the US and UK academies in the 1980s as part of a larger wave of new and politicized fields of humanistic inquiry, most notably feminism and critical race theory. As it is generally constituted, post colonial theory emerges from and is deeply indebted to anti colonial thought from South Asia and Africa in the first half of the 20th century. In the US and UK academies, this has historically meant that its focus has been these regions, often at the expense of theory emerging from Latin and South America. He says, as it is generally constituted, post-colonial theory emerges from and is deeply indebted to the anti-colonial thought from South Asia and Africa in the first half of the 20th century. So if we see, India got independence in first half of the 20th century only. Okay. And post colonialism even talks about feminism and critical race theory. And he says in the US and UK academies, this has historically meant that its focus has been these regions, often at the expense of theory emerging from Latin and South America. Now, there are many parts of the Asian continent which has been colonized. Okay, and that's why the anti-colonial thought emerged, okay, in South Asia and Africa. You know that when Gandhiji visited Africa, how he has been treated, when he visited the various parts of the world, how he has been treated. Okay, so over the course of the past 30 years, it has remained simultaneously tethered to the fact of colonial rule in the first half of the 20th century and committed to politics and justice in the contemporary moment. This has meant that it has taken multiple forms. It has been concerned with forms of political and aesthetic representation. It has been committed to accounting for globalization and global modernity. It has been invested in reimagining politics and ethics from underneath imperial power, an effort that remains committed to those who continue to suffer its effects, and it has been interested in perpetually discovering and theorizing new forms of human injustice from environmentalism to human rights. Post-colonial theory has influenced the way we read text, the way we understand national and transnational histories, and the way we understand the political implications of our own knowledge as scholars. Now, post-colonial, when we are talking about post-colonial theory, and we are trying to understand the impact of colonialism on various aspects of our life, social, economic, historical, political, aesthetic aspect. Okay, because the post-colonial literature is all about the not only social, economic, political, historical impact, but also aesthetic impact. Okay, the type of literature which was produced in India before colonialism, the type of literature which was produced during colonialism, and I mean after India has been colonized, Indian English literature which was produced, which can be considered as the gift of colonialism or post-colonialism only. So if you see the aesthetic impact, that is also there because we have got Indian English literature. Okay, so post-colonial theory has impacted us. no doubt, in multiple ways. So we all know that we have become globalized community, okay, because of post-colonialism or colonialism, you can say. Even science and technology has helped us to become a globalized community. Okay, so I'm ending the lecture now. We will study further tomorrow. Okay.